B. Emergency repairs. The Secretary of Defense shall make any necessary repairs of broken locks or other safety mechanisms discovered during the assessment conducted under subsection A, not later than 30 days after discovering the issue. C. Report 1. In general, not later than 270 days after the date of the enactment of this Act, the Secretary of Defense shall submit to the Congressional Defense Committees a report on the results of the assessment conducted under subsection A. 2. Elements. The report under paragraph 1 shall include a cost estimate to make any improvements recommended pursuant to the assessment under subsection A, disaggregated by military department and installation, and b. an estimated schedule for making such improvements. Sec. 2816. Improvement of Department of Defense Child Development Centers and increased availability of child care for children of military personnel. A. Safety inspection of child development centers, not later than 1 year after the date of the enactment of this Act. Each Secretary of a military department shall complete an inspection of all facilities under the jurisdiction of that Secretary used as a child development center to identify any unresolved safety issues, including lead, asbestos, and mold, that adversely impact the facilities. B. Briefing on results of safety inspections and remediation plans. 1. Briefing required, not later than March 1, 2022. Each Secretary of a military department shall brief the Committees on Armed Services of the Senate and the House of Representatives regarding the results of the safety inspections conducted of child development centers under the jurisdiction of that Secretary. Two. Required elements of briefing. In the briefing required by paragraph 1, the Secretary of a military department shall provide the following. A. A list of any child development centers under the jurisdiction of that Secretary considered to be in poor or failing condition. In the case of each child development center included on this list, the Secretary shall provide a remediation plan for the Child Development Center, which shall include the following elements. An estimate of the funding required to complete the remediation plan. 2. The Secretary's funding strategy to complete the remediation plan. Any additional statutory authorities the Secretary needs to complete the remediation plan. B. A list of life-threatening and non-life-threatening violations during the previous 3 years recorded at child development centers under the jurisdiction of that Secretary that are not included on the list required by subparagraph A, which shall include the name of the installation where the violation occurred and date of inspection. C. A list of what that Secretary considers a life-threatening and non-life-threatening violation, including with regard to the presence of lead, asbestos, and mold. D. A list of how often the 90-day remediation requirement has been waived and the name of each child development center under the jurisdiction of that Secretary at which a waiver was granted. E. Data on child development center closures under the jurisdiction of that Secretary due to a non-life-threatening violation not remedied within 90 days. F. An additional plan to conduct preventive maintenance on other child development centers under the jurisdiction of that Secretary to prevent additional child development centers from degrading to poor or failing condition. C. Partnerships encouraged for child care for children of military personnel, beginning 1 year after the date of the enactment of this Act, and pursuant to such regulations as the Secretary of Defense may prescribe. Each Secretary of a military department is encouraged to enter into agreements with public and private entities to provide child care to the children of personnel, including members of the armed forces and civilian employees of the Department of Defense, under the jurisdiction of that Secretary. D. Annual status updates. Not later than 18 months after the date of the enactment of this Act, and every 12 months thereafter, each Secretary of a military department shall brief the Committees on Armed Services of the Senate and the House of Representatives on the progress made by that Secretary. 1. In implementing the Child Development Center remediation plans required by subsection B. 2a. For child development centers under the jurisdiction of that Secretary considered to be in poor or failing condition, including details about projects planned, funded, under construction, and completed under the plans. 2. In conducting preventive maintenance on other child development centers under the jurisdiction of that Secretary pursuant to the preventive maintenance plan required by subsection B. 2f. And 3. In entering into partnerships encouraged by subsection C, including with regard to each partnership, a. The terms of the agreement, including cost to the United States, b. The number of children described in such subparagraph projected to receive child care under the partnership, and c. If applicable, the actual number of such children who received child care under the partnership during the previous year. E. Child Development Center defined in this section. The term Child Development Center has the meaning given that term in Section